I cheated on my wife. She left, and I finally realized what I destroyed. I'm Mark, 36 years old, and my wife Elena, 32 years old. We have 2 kids, a son who's 8 and a daughter who's 5. We've been together 12 years, married 9. Before anyone asks, yes, I cheated. I'm not trying to frame myself as a victim. I'm here because I did something selfish, and now I'm living inside the consequences. I want advice, but not the kind that helps me win her back. The kind that tells me what's ethical if there's even anything I can do beyond letting her go. Elena and I weren't a bad marriage from the outside. We both worked. We split school drop-offs. We hosted birthdays. We did holidays with her family. We had routines. We laughed. We argued about normal stuff like money and chores and my tendency to overbook myself. But we also had a quiet distance that I didn't handle like an adult. Elena carries a lot. She's the planner, the organizer, the one who remembers doctor appointments and permission slips. I helped, but if I'm honest, I helped like a decent roommate, not always like a partner who anticipates. 2 years ago, Elena started saying, I need you to be present. Not more money, not more gifts, presence. I heard it as criticism. I heard it as, you're failing. So I did what I always did when I felt like I was failing. I worked more. I stayed busy. I turned my phone face down at dinner because I needed a break, which is a fancy way of saying I didn't want to be confronted by the reality of my own family life. Then my company hired someone new, Tessa, late 22nds. Smart, funny, she laughed at my jokes. She asked me questions about myself that I hadn't heard in years because Elena already knew the answers. I know how that sounds, and I know it's the oldest cliché on earth. Man feels unappreciated, coworker makes him feel special, he mistakes attention for connection. The first boundary I crossed wasn't physical, it was emotional. I started lingering after meetings to talk to Tessa. I started sharing little frustrations about home, never saying Elena is bad, but saying things are stressful, letting Tessa fill the silence with sympathy. Sympathy is intoxicating when you're avoiding your own accountability. I told myself it was harmless because I wasn't touching her, because I wasn't meeting her outside work, because I was just talking. But the truth is, I was building a private world inside my real one. It escalated fast once the door was open. We started texting. At first it was work memes. Then it became, how's your day? Then it became late-night conversations about life and regrets and feeling trapped. I remember one night Elena was in the kids' room reading them a story. I was in bed, phone glowing, smiling at something Tessa texted me. Elena walked in afterward, looked at my face, and said, "Who are you talking to?" I panicked. Not because I was doing something innocent, because I knew I wasn't. "Just work," I said. She stared at me for a second and said quietly, "Okay," but her eyes changed, like a part of her filed it away. A month later, I crossed the next line. Tessa and I were out of town for a conference with a group. We all went for drinks. People drifted off. It was late. I was tired and buzzed and feeling that stupid, selfish sense of being seen. Tessa touched my arm and said, "I wish you were happier." And instead of saying, "I'm responsible for my happiness," I leaned into the fantasy. I kissed her. I wish I could say I stopped there. I didn't. The affair lasted about 8 weeks. 8 weeks of secret texts, lies about working late, deleting messages, showering immediately when I got home so I didn't smell like hotel soap. 8 weeks of looking my wife in the eye and acting normal. I became 2 people, father, husband at home, addict to validation everywhere else. Then, Elena found out. Not because I confessed, because I slipped. I left my Apple Watch on the kitchen counter. A message came through. Elena saw a line she couldn't unsee. Last night was perfect. When I came downstairs, Elena was sitting at the table with the watch in front of her like evidence. She didn't yell. She didn't throw things. She looked quiet, like the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. She said, "Explain." I lied first. Reflex, cowardice. "It's not," I started. She held up a hand. "Don't," she said. "If you lie to me right now, I will never speak to you again." So I told the truth. I told her I'd had an affair. I told her it lasted 2 months. I told her I was sorry. I told her it didn't mean anything, which is the dumbest phrase anyone can say, because if it didn't mean anything, why did I sacrifice everything for it? Elena listened without crying. That was the scariest part. Then she stood up, walked into the bedroom, and started packing a suitcase. I followed her like an idiot. "Elena, please," I said. "We can fix this." She didn't look at me. She folded clothes with mechanical calm. "You broke it," she said. "I made a mistake," I said, desperate. Elena finally turned and looked at me. Her voice was flat. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk," she said. "You made choices." Then she said the sentence that still echoes in my head. "I don't feel safe with you." She took the suitcase and left to her sister's house with the kids. I stood in the doorway watching their car pull away, feeling like someone had amputated my life. And then my phone buzzed. It was Tessa. "Are you okay?" That message made me feel physically sick, because the reality of what I'd done hit me all at once. I didn't just hurt my wife. I blew up my kids' home. I texted Tessa, "Do not contact me again." Then I blocked her. And I sat alone in my kitchen staring at the empty high chairs and the cereal boxes and the family calendar. I had wanted escape. I got exile. 2 days later, Elena emailed me a custody schedule. Not a conversation, a schedule. That's when I realized this wasn't a fight. It was a separation. And I had earned it. I expected screaming. I expected a dramatic confrontation with tears and thrown dishes. Instead, I got something colder. Logistics. Elena didn't text me. She didn't call. She emailed like I was a coworker she didn't trust. She said we needed space and structure for the kids. She proposed a temporary schedule. I'd have them every other weekend and one weeknight dinner. She asked me to keep communication strictly about the children. At first, I was offended. That sounds ridiculous given what I'd done, but it's honest. I felt punished. I felt like she was taking them away. Then my therapist, because, yes, I got into therapy, immediately said something that shut me up. "She's not taking your children. She's protecting them from chaos." I didn't want to hear that, but it was true. My kids didn't know about the affair, obviously. They just knew Mom and Dad were suddenly not living together, and Dad looked like a ghost. The first time I saw them after Elena left was a supervised exchange at Elena's sister's driveway. My son ran up and hugged me hard. My daughter stared at me like she was trying to decide if hugging me was safe. "Why aren't you coming home?" my son asked. I opened my mouth and nothing came out. You can't tell an 8-year-old because I betrayed your mother. So I said the weakest, truest thing I could say. "Mom and I are having grown-up problems, but we both love you." He nodded like he didn't fully understand, but wanted to be brave. Elena stood on the porch watching, arms folded. Not angry, just guarded. I wanted to beg. I wanted to cry. I wanted to explain. Instead, I followed the rule she set. Don't talk about us in front of the kids. I drove them to my apartment because I'd rented a small place quickly, close to their school, to show I wasn't going to disappear. That weekend felt like a performance I wasn't qualified for. I made pancakes and pretended my hands weren't shaking. I played board games and tried not to cry when my daughter said, "Mommy's house smells better." I read bedtime stories and stared at the empty side of the bed afterward, realizing I used to take those nights for granted. On Sunday night, when I dropped them off, my daughter clung to my leg. "Don't go," she whispered. I felt my throat close. "I have to," I said softly, "but I'll see you soon." Elena came out, gently unhooked her hands, and lifted her into her arms. She didn't look at me. That hurt more than if she'd slapped me. Over the next weeks, I did what any remorseful person claims to do. I worked on myself. But here's the truth. You can do therapy and self-help and still be secretly focused on one thing: getting forgiven. My therapist called me out. "You're trying to do recovery as a transaction," she said. "If I improve, I get my wife back." I argued. Then I sat in silence because she was right. I wasn't just repairing myself because it was right. I was repairing myself because I wanted my old life back. And that matters because Elena could feel it. People can smell performative regret. I wrote Elena a long apology email. I didn't send it. I rewrote it. I deleted half. I made it shorter and more direct. "I'm sorry I betrayed you. I ended all contact with the other person. I'm in therapy. I understand if you never forgive me. I will be a consistent father. I will respect your boundaries." Elena replied 2 days later. "Thank you for acknowledging it. Please keep communication about the kids." That was it. "No, I appreciate it." No, maybe. Just kids only. I spiraled. I started rereading our old texts, photos, wedding pictures. I'd stare at my phone like it could rewrite time. Then something happened that humbled me in an ugly way. My son's teacher emailed both of us. He'd been acting out at school, getting into arguments, refusing to do work. Elena and I met with the teacher separately at first, then together. Sitting next to Elena in that tiny classroom felt like being next to a stranger I'd injured. The teacher said gently, "Kids often blame themselves for changes at home." My chest tightened. Elena glanced at me for the first time in weeks. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. After the meeting, outside, Elena said quietly, "This is what you did." I nodded. "I know." And she said something that surprised me. "I can survive you hurting me," she said. "I can't forgive you hurting them." I wanted to say, "I never meant to," but I stopped myself. Intent doesn't matter here, impact does. That night, I sat alone and realized my family back fantasy wasn't just selfish. It was also impossible to demand. Because Elena wasn't a door I could unlock with the right apology, she was a person with boundaries I had shattered. So I shifted my focus to the only thing I could control ethically, being stable for my kids, and being honest for once. Then I got a message from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Tessa. We need to talk." My stomach dropped, because I'd blocked her everywhere, and she still found a way through. And I knew whatever came next would complicate everything. Seeing Tessa's name pop up after I'd blocked her triggered a panic I didn't expect, not because I missed her, because her existence now represented a threat to the only thing I still cared about, my kids' stability. I didn't reply. Then another message came in. "I'm not trying to ruin you, but you can't ignore me." I sat staring at the screen, feeling my shame turn into anger. I wanted to text back something cruel. I wanted to blame her. I wanted to pretend she'd seduced me and I'd been a helpless idiot. But the truth is, I made the choice every single day. She didn't break vows. I did. So instead of replying, I called my therapist and asked what to do. She said, "If you have ongoing harassment, document it. If it's something else, consider whether you owe her any response. But be careful, any contact can reopen the cycle." I decided to handle it like an adult. I asked my attorney. Yes, I got an attorney not because I wanted to fight Elena, but because I needed to understand custody and boundaries and how to protect my kids from further chaos. My attorney advised, "Don't engage with Tessa, document. If necessary, send one written notice, do not contact me." So I did. One message. Do not contact me again. Any communication must go through legal channels. I blocked the number. For a week, silence. Then Elena called me. She hadn't called me since the day she left. My heart started pounding just seeing her name. Her voice was steady but tight. "Did you tell her?" she asked. My stomach dropped. "Tell who what?" "Elena," she said controlled. "Tessa emailed me." The shame hit like a physical blow. "What did she say?" I asked. Elena exhaled. "She said she's sorry and that she didn't know you were married at first." That wasn't true. She knew. She met coworkers at a company event. She saw my wedding ring. She knew. It wasn't ignorance, it was complicity. Elena continued, voice shaking now. "Then she said you're not the man I think you are and that you still love her." My chest tightened. "That's not true." I said quickly, "Elena, I ended it. I blocked her." Elena laughed one sharp, humorless sound. "And yet she's emailing me," she said. "So your blocking didn't protect me, did it?" She was right, again. I swallowed. "I'm sorry," I said. Elena's voice went flat. "Don't apologize," she said. "Fix it." I said, "Tell me what you want me to do." She paused. "Get a formal no-contact letter sent," she said, "so she stops trying to reach me through you." That was fair. So my attorney sent a cease and desist on my behalf, instructing Tessa to stop contacting me and my wife. The letter wasn't threatening in tone, just clear. Tessa responded by doing what manipulative people do when they lose access. She tried to regain it through drama. She messaged a mutual coworker about Mark's wife being abusive. She hinted I was forced to end things. She painted herself as a victim. HR got involved. Not because of the affair, my company doesn't police private lives unless it affects work, but because the communications were spilling into the workplace. I had to sit in an HR office and explain that I had a personal situation that was now becoming harassment. I didn't mention Elena's name. I didn't make excuses. I simply said, I ended all contact and want this to stop. HR separated us on projects. That part was humiliating, but I deserved it. What I didn't deserve, what my kids didn't deserve, was the next consequence. Because Elena's sister found out about the email. And Elena's sister hates me. Understandably. She told Elena, he'll never stop bringing chaos, get full custody. Elena didn't file immediately, but she did request a modification, fewer flexible swaps, more structure, and all communication through a co-parenting app. It was like watching Elena build a wall brick by brick, and each brick was a consequence of my choices. I agreed to the app. I agreed to the structure. Because I knew she wasn't doing it to punish me. She was doing it to survive me. Time passed. Therapy continued. I attended a men's accountability group, something my therapist recommended, because individual therapy can still become self-centered. In that group, I heard men say all the same excuses I'd been tempted to use. I was lonely. My wife didn't listen. It just happened. And I realized how disgusting those phrases are when you put them next to the reality of children crying at custody exchanges. I started writing letters I would never send to Elena, to my kids, to my past self, owning the truth without trying to earn anything. Then, 6 months into separation, Elena emailed me something that made my hands shake. I'm filing for divorce. I stared at the screen until it blurred. Even though I knew it was possible, even though I knew she didn't owe me reconciliation, I felt like I was falling. Because divorce isn't just an ending. It's a public declaration. This person is no longer safe for me. I called her. She didn't answer. I sent one message through the co-parenting app. I understand. I won't fight you. I want what's best for the kids. She replied, thank you. One word. The divorce process began. Paperwork, mediation scheduling, assets. I didn't contest anything, not because I'm noble, because I didn't want to add more harm. Then my therapist asked me a question that made me sick. What if getting your family back is not available? What do you do then? I didn't have an answer, but I needed one, because the next stage of my life couldn't be a constant attempt to reverse time. And yet, part of me still hoped Elena might change her mind. That hope was going to get tested when Elena did something I didn't expect. She asked to meet me alone without the kids, and I couldn't tell if it meant closure or a possibility. When Elena asked to meet, she didn't write to talk about us. She wrote, I need to discuss co-parenting boundaries. That should have told me everything. But hope is sneaky. It makes you interpret neutral statements like invitations. We met at a coffee shop on a weekday morning. Neutral, public, safe. Elena arrived on time, hair pulled back, no makeup, looking tired in a way that made me realize how much stress I'd handed her. She sat across from me and didn't smile. Not hostile, just resolved. I'm not here to talk about reconciliation, she said immediately, like she'd read my face. My chest tightened. Okay, I said. I understand. Elena took a breath. I need you to stop asking the kids what I'm doing, she said. I blinked. I don't. She held up her hand. You do. Not in obvious ways, but they come home and tell me, Dad asked who you were texting. Or, Dad asked if you went out. Shame flooded my face. I hadn't realized I was doing it. But I had, subtly. Out of anxiety, out of that desperate need to remain emotionally connected. Elena continued, voice steady but strained. They are not messengers, she said. They're kids. I swallowed. You're right, I said. I'm sorry. She nodded once, like apology wasn't the currency anymore, behavior was. And I need you to stop dropping by my sister's house, she added. I frowned. You only did it twice, she said, to drop off something you forgot, but it makes me feel watched. Watched. The same word she used the night she left, unsafe. I nodded. Okay, I said. I won't. Elena's eyes were glossy, but she didn't cry. I need you to accept that the marriage is over, she said quietly. That sentence felt like a door shutting in my face. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say, But we have history. We have kids. We can rebuild. Instead, I forced myself to ask the only ethical question. What do you need from me to make co-parenting healthy? I asked. Elena's shoulders dropped slightly, like she hadn't expected that. I need consistency, she said. I need you to show up on your days. I need you to stop trying to bargain your way into my life. I nodded. Okay. Elena looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, softer, Mark, I loved you, but I can't unsee what you did. I felt tears sting my eyes. I know, I said, and I'm sorry. She leaned back, inhaled slowly. Sorry isn't enough, she said. Not for me. I nodded again, swallowing hard. Then she said something that hurt in a different way. I don't hate you, she said. I just don't trust you. Trust, the thing I broke, the thing you can't demand back. We talked practicalities, holidays, school events, how to handle birthdays. We agreed to sit together at events but keep things polite. We agreed not to introduce new partners to the kids quickly. Then Elena stood up. She hesitated, like she wanted to say something else. What? I asked. Elena looked down at her hands. I need you to stop telling people you're trying to win me back, she said quietly. My stomach dropped. I didn't. She looked up. Your mother told me, she said. She said you're doing everything to get your family back and that I should reward your effort. I felt my face burn with embarrassment and anger, not at Elena, at myself and my mom. I said, I'm sorry, I said quickly. I didn't ask her to say that. Elena nodded. I know, she said, but it puts pressure on me, and I'm done being pressured. She walked out. I sat there staring at my coffee like it contained answers. On the drive home, I called my mother and told her to stop speaking to Elena about reconciliation. My mom said, But you deserve a chance. I said, No, I deserve consequences. My mom went quiet. That conversation was part of my accountability too, stopping the people around me from trying to manipulate Elena into coming back. As the divorce progressed, I focused on the kids. I learned their bedtime routines. I stopped leaning on Elena's memory for school forms. I learned to pack lunches. I showed up to parent-teacher conferences and took notes. I became the father I should have been while I was married, which is its own kind of punishment, becoming better too late. One night, my son asked me, Did you do something bad to Mom? Kids always know more than we think. My throat tightened. I made choices that hurt Mom, I said carefully. And I'm sorry for that. He nodded slowly. Are you sorry to me too? That question broke me. I whispered, Yes, I'm sorry to you too. He stared at me with 8-year-old seriousness and said, Okay, don't do it again. The simplicity of that was devastating. Because I couldn't undo it. I could only not repeat patterns. And that's when I realized, maybe getting my family back isn't the goal. Maybe being worthy of them whether Elena returns or not is. But I still had one huge fear, that Elena would eventually meet someone else. And I'd have to watch another man be the husband I failed to be. That fear showed me how much selfishness was still inside me, and I needed to decide. Would I let that fear make me worse? Or finally grow up? The divorce finalized about 10 months after Elena left. It was civil. We split assets. We set custody. We signed papers in a quiet office that felt like a funeral for a life I'd thrown away. After the signing, Elena didn't hug me. She didn't curse me. She just said, Take care, and walked away. I drove home and sat in my empty apartment and realized this is my life now. Not as a punishment from the universe, as a direct result of what I chose. It's been a few months since then. I see my kids regularly. I show up. I keep promises. I don't fish for information about Elena's personal life. I don't send I miss you texts. I don't make jokes about getting back together. I'm trying to be the kind of co-parent Elena can trust. But here's the question I'm struggling with, and why I'm posting. Is there ever a respectful way to pursue reconciliation after betrayal? Because I've seen two extremes online. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Never forgive. If you love your family, fight for it. Both feel too simple. My therapist says the only ethical approach is, you become better regardless of outcome, and you let the betrayed partner decide if they want to re-enter the relationship without pressure. I'm doing that, but it's hard to sit with not knowing. I miss Elena. I miss being a family. I miss waking up to our kitchen noises and school mornings. I miss the version of me that felt normal before I destroyed it. But I don't miss the selfishness. I don't miss the dishonesty. I don't miss being someone who could lie to a woman who trusted me. I've done individual therapy weekly. I've stayed in the accountability group. I've read books. I've made amends where I can. But I still don't know if there's anything else I should do that isn't manipulation. For example, should I write Elena a final apology letter and never mention reconciliation again? Should I ask if she'd be willing to do one session of co-parent counseling for closure, not reconciliation? Or should I accept that the only family back I get is being a good father on my days and leaving Elena alone? Because I don't want to be the guy who uses "I'm changing" as a lever to make her feel guilty. I already did enough damage. Elena has started looking happier, at least from what I can tell at school events. She laughs with other moms. She looks more rested. She doesn't flinch around me anymore, but she also doesn't soften. She's polite, distant, firm. Sometimes I catch myself hoping she'll see me being better and think, maybe. Then I catch myself again. Because I'm not entitled to her hope. The most painful part is that the kids are okay. They're resilient. They love me. They love their mom. They adapt. And that makes me realize I wasn't just risking my marriage. I was risking their stability for attention and ego. I don't think I'll ever fully forgive myself for that. But I can decide what kind of man I become after. So, Reddit, what should I do? Not to win her back like a prize, but to be accountable without becoming intrusive. Aita for still wanting my wife back after what I did? And if you were Elena, what would you need to see to even consider reconciliation, if anything? Because right now, I'm living with the fact that the family I want back may only exist in memories. And I'm trying to learn how to be a good father in the present, even if I'm no longer a husband. So, what's the respectful move here? Is there any path to reconciliation, or should I accept the consequences and focus on co-parenting? If you want more Reddit-style long stories, subscribe.